62%. That's the share of Honda CVT fluid samples in one independent lab batch that came back with friction modifier concentrations below the working floor the fluid spec calls for. Average mileage on those samples? 61,000, not 200,000, 61. And here's why that number should matter to you right now, sitting in your driveway. If you're driving a Civic, an HR-V, a Fit, or an Accord with the continuously variable box, your maintenance minder may still be showing you a clean bill of health, because the fluid in that transmission doesn't fail the way you think it fails. It doesn't fail all at once. It fails in stages, in a specific order, and each stage announces itself with a completely different symptom. Miss the first one, and you're not dealing with a fluid problem anymore. You're dealing with a hardware problem. So let's walk the mileage ladder. 60,000, 100,000, 150,000. What actually changes first? First, though, I need to correct something. Most people, and honestly, plenty of quick lube counters too, believe CVT fluid wears out because it breaks down and stops protecting parts the way engine oil does. That's the mental model almost everybody carries in. It's wrong, or at least, it's wrong in a way that costs money. Lab data on used HCF2 samples tends to show something surprising. The base oil itself holds up remarkably well. What's actually doing the critical work is the additive package, and specifically the friction modifier chemistry. Here's the technical piece. A Honda CVT doesn't use gears the way you're picturing. It uses a steel push belt, or on some units a steel chain, squeezed between two pairs of cone-shaped pulleys that change diameter to change ratio. Depending on generation, there's also a torque converter or a start clutch sitting in front of it. And the entire thing lives or dies on one number, the friction coefficient right, at the pulley contact patch, where hardened steel presses against hardened steel. Now, here's the analogy that actually fits. Think about rosin on a violin bow. Rosin isn't a lubricant. Rosin is the opposite of a lubricant, and it's there so the horsehair grabs the string instead of sliding across it silently. CVT fluid does that same paradoxical job. It has to lubricate the bearings and carry hydraulic pressure, but at the contact patch it has to grab. Strip the rosin off a bow and the bow still moves. It just stops making the note. Strip the friction modifier out of CVT fluid and the belt still turns. It just starts slipping in tiny increments you feel as a shudder. And there's a second job, the hydraulic one. That same fluid is the muscle that pushes the pulley pistons together, and it flows through the valve body, which is basically a machined maze of passages and solenoids controlling pressure. Precision in there gets measured in 10,000ths of an inch. So you've got one fluid doing contradictory things at the same time. Grab here, lubricate there, hold pressure everywhere. Now listen, because this is where the mileage story starts. Two things degrade, and they degrade on different clocks. The friction modifier and the anti-shudder additives get consumed. That's additive depletion, and it's chemical. Separately, the transmission generates fine steel wear particles that accumulate in the fluid, and that part is purely mechanical. Picture fine sand worked into a bicycle chain. Not a rock jammed in the derailleur. Sand. Individually harmless, basically invisible, and yet it quietly turns every pin and roller into a slow grinding operation. That sand is what the ferrous particle count measures. So, 60,000 miles. Chapter 1. At this stage, in my assessment, almost nothing has gone mechanically wrong. Drop a pan or pull a sample and the hardware is typically fine. What's changed is chemistry. Fluid analysis showed friction modifier depletion in the range of 30 to 40% on well-used 60,000 mile samples, while viscosity retention still sat around 94% of original spec. Read those two numbers next to each other, 94% versus roughly 65%. The fluid still behaves almost like new fluid and has already lost a third of the one property that matters most. The real-world consequence? Judder. That's the word to learn. Judder is a low-frequency shudder you feel through the seat and the pedal, usually at light throttle, usually somewhere between 15 and 30 miles an hour, often worst on a gentle uphill or pulling away from a stop sign. Some owners describe it as driving over rumble strips that aren't there. Others say the car feels like it's shivering. It comes and goes. It tends to get worse once the fluid's fully hot. Why does that matter to you specifically? Because judder at this stage is usually reversible. A drain and fill restores the additive package, and the shudder often disappears within a few dozen miles. That's the cheap chapter. That's the one where a fluid service is just a fluid service and not a down payment on a transmission. And here's the question I want you sitting with for a second. What happens to all those steel particles that a drain and fill doesn't remove? Because that's chapter 2. 100,000 miles. And now the story changes character completely. The additive depletion is still there, worse, actually, but it's no longer the headline. The headline is particulate. Every one of those grabbing events at the pulley contact patch sheds a little metal. Every start clutch engagement sheds a little more. And these units don't have a spin-on filter you swap out at every oil change the way your engine does. Used fluid analysis on 100,000-mile samples that have never been serviced has shown ferrous particle counts in the range of 200 parts per million, against roughly 35 parts per million on samples from vehicles that got fluid changes every 30,000 miles. 200 versus 35. That's the comparison that should stick with you. And those particles don't just float around being harmless. Here's the mechanism. They circulate through the valve body. Remember the machined maze? Valve body clearance in a modern CVT often sits in the range of 4 to 8 10,0andths of an inch. That abrasive slurry runs through those bores thousands of times an hour and it lightly hones them. Wider bore, more internal leakage, less precise pressure control, back to the bicycle chain, full of sand. The chain doesn't snap. The holes just get sloppy and sloppy holes leak. The consequence you feel is completely different from judder, and this is the part that gets misdiagnosed constantly. Delayed engagement when you shift into drive. A brief hesitation before the car actually moves. Engine RPM flaring a few hundred revolutions before the car catches up to it. Harsh re-engagement when you lift off and get back on the throttle. Sometimes a stored pressure-related code with no obvious hard failure anywhere. Owners get told it's a solenoid. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the solenoid is perfectly fine and it's working inside a bore that isn't. Is this one reversible? Partly. Evidence suggests fresh fluid at this point can restore a meaningful amount of pressure control, and often quiets the symptoms down, because you're diluting the abrasive load and restoring the additive package at the same time. But honed clearance doesn't grow back. That's the asymmetry nobody explains to you at the counter. Chapter 1 is fully reversible. Chapter 2 is only partly reversible. Now think about what another 50,000 miles of that does. 150,000. Chapter 3. This is where the pulleys themselves start telling on you. The surface of those cone pulleys isn't smooth like a mirror. It carries a specific engineered microtexture. And that texture, plus the friction modifier, is what produces the grip number the whole design quietly assumes. Run it long enough with depleted additive and an elevated ferrous particle count, and two things tend to happen. The texture polishes down, and the surface can develop a glaze, a hardened, burnished film. The bow analogy comes all the way back around here. At 60,000, you'd lost some of the rosin. At 150,000, in the worst cases, you've also polished the string itself. Adding rosin back to a polished string helps less than it used to. That's glazing in one sentence. Fresh fluid can still improve things, and it usually does, but the mechanical surface has changed, and a changed surface isn't something a bottle fixes. What that feels like on the road is slip under load. Merging onto a highway with the air conditioning on and 3 passengers, and the revs climb while the speedometer lags behind them. Climbing a long grade and feeling the car hunt for a ratio, towing a small trailer and noticing the temperature gauge sitting higher than it ever used to. Some cars throw a ratio-related code at this point. Some just feel tired. Fluid analysis showed friction coefficient measurements at the contact patch down around 0.094 against roughly 0.118 for fresh HCF2 under comparable test conditions. 0.118 versus 0.094. That's roughly a 20% reduction in the single property the belt drive depends on, and clamping force has to rise to compensate, which raises contact stress, which accelerates surface wear. That's the loop, it feeds itself. So that's the order. Additive depletion and judder first, valve body wear from particulates second, pulley glazing and belt slip third. Notice something about that sequence? The cheapest problem shows up first and the most expensive one shows up last, which means the earliest symptom is also the single most valuable warning this transmission will ever hand you. Ignore the shudder, and you're not ignoring a shudder. You're skipping the alarm. Where's all this coming from? I put the mileage ordering to Priya Rahavan, a transmission durability engineer who spent years doing belt drive validation work, and her read was blunt. The chemistry has a shorter useful life than the appearance does, and appearance is exactly what most people judge it by. Independent used fluid analysis labs, the same outfits commercial fleets use for routine oil sampling, have been reporting a version of this for years now. Base oil stable, additive spent, iron climbing. One more piece of hard data worth carrying with you. Lab work comparing serviced against never serviced units at similar mileage showed anti-shudder additive concentrations at roughly 22% of new fluid baseline in the unserviced group, against roughly 88% in units serviced every 30,000 miles. 22 versus 88. Same model, same year, same roads, different maintenance history. And now a hard warning that has nothing to do with intervals. HCF2 and HCF1 are not interchangeable. A vehicle specified for HCF2 requires HCF2, not universal CVT fluid, not a bottle claiming compatibility with everything on the shelf, not automatic transmission fluid. The entire argument I just made about friction coefficient exists because that fluid is formulated to hit a specific number, and a substitute that misses the number may cause exactly the symptoms you're trying to prevent. Check your manual, check the bottle, then check it again. Now here's where I want to be genuinely fair, because Honda's position isn't lazy and it isn't stupid. The maintenance minder isn't a mileage counter, it's an algorithm and it's a good one. It tracks fluid and engine temperature exposure, load, RPM, trip duration, cold start frequency, and elapsed time, then converts all of that into a computed remaining life for the fluid. The engineering logic is sound. A car that spends its life at steady highway speeds in a mild climate genuinely puts far less thermal and shear stress on that fluid than a car doing 8 short trips a day in Phoenix in August. Fixed intervals punish the gentle driver. There's a second fair point too. Over-servicing carries real costs and real risks. Every fluid service is an opportunity for the wrong fluid, an overfill, an underfill, a cross-threaded plug, or a technician who decides a high-pressure flush is a great idea on a unit where that's questionable. Honda's interval decisions draw on warranty and failure data across an enormous fleet, millions of units, and the company carries the financial exposure if those intervals are wrong. That's not a trivial incentive. In my assessment, the minder is a reasonable system, honestly built, but wait, here's the gap. The minder is modeling fluid life against a set of assumptions, and its inputs are thermal and mechanical proxies. It isn't sampling your fluid. There's no sensor in there, measuring friction, modifier concentration, and no sensor counting iron particles. It's an excellent estimate of accumulated stress, not a measurement of chemistry, and an excellent estimate calibrated for the middle of the fleet can be optimistic at the edges. So who lives at the edges? Anyone towing, even a small utility trailer? Anyone in sustained heat, where fluid temperature runs higher for longer stretches? Anyone doing heavy stop and go because a CVT's start clutch or torque converter does its hardest work at the lowest speeds? Anyone in mountains? Anyone whose commute is 6 miles each way? So the fluid never fully stabilizes before the key comes out. If that's you, the service data indicates the interval that suits a fleet average may not suit your particular car. And nothing about saying that requires anybody to have acted in bad faith. Let me say the obvious part out loud. This is general information, not a diagnosis of your specific car. Your owner's manual and a transmission shop you actually trust are the final word here. And if your car's still under warranty, follow the documented schedule and keep every single receipt. So let's make this actionable, because conditions matter more than raw mileage. If you're under 60,000 miles with no symptoms, mild climate, no towing, then follow the minder and start checking the fluid visually once a year so you learn what normal looks like on your own car. If you're between 60 and 100,000 and you've never touched that fluid, then in my assessment, a drain and fill is the highest return maintenance dollar available to you, symptoms or no symptoms. If you feel judder at light throttle around 20 miles an hour, then get fresh fluid in it soon rather than waiting on the minder. And consider a second drain and fill a few thousand miles later, since one pass only exchanges part of the total volume. If you're past 100,000 with no service history at all, then talk to a transmission specialist before something happens. Describe the symptoms precisely and ask about several spaced out drain and fills rather than one aggressive service. If you're past 150,000 and already feeling slip under load, then get it properly diagnosed first, because at that point fluid is part of the answer and not the whole answer. If you tow, live somewhere hot, or drive mostly short trips, then treat roughly every 30,000 miles as your working number and let the minder act as a backstop instead of the boss. And if a shop offers you a high pressure flush on a high mileage unit, then ask them specifically why and what the factory service guidance actually says about it before you agree to anything. Here's the one thing you can do this week for free in about 4 minutes. If your model has a CVT dipstick, pull it warm and wipe it on a white paper towel. If it uses a level plug instead, have it checked at your next service and ask the tech to show you the fluid on a clean rag. You're looking at exactly 2 things: color and smell. Fresh HCF2 typically reads clear amber, sometimes with a faint green tint depending on the fluid. Serviceable used fluid darkens toward brown, and that alone isn't alarming. What you're watching for is dark, opaque brown, or near black, and especially a gray metallic sheen or fine glitter when you tilt the towel in good light. That's your ferrous particle count showing up somewhere you can actually see it. Then smell it. Healthy fluid smells faintly oily and vaguely chemical. A burnt sweetness, sharp and slightly scorched, is associated with sustained overheating in clutch or belt distress. Dark plus glitter plus burnt sweet is a call a specialist combination, not a wait and see one. Now I want the pattern down in the comments, because honestly, that's where the genuinely useful data lives. Drop your model, your mileage, and whether that CVT fluid has ever been changed. If it has, tell me at what mileage and how the car felt afterward. Have you ever felt the judder? Did fresh fluid clear it up, or did it creep back? because when 300 of you post that, we all get to see the real curve instead of guessing at it. So who's got the highest mileage Honda CVT still running smooth, and what did you do differently? Tell me.